Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for October the 14th. Today, we are beginning our final section of reads throughout the Psalter. I guess this final book of the Psalter goes back a few Psalms to Psalm number, what was it, 107. So the final book of the Psalms goes back and begins in Psalm 107, but I kind of feel like it's a section unto itself, considering we just got through the very long read of Psalm 119, and that these Psalms here, beginning in Psalm 120, this section of the songs of ascents, they go into some songs of praise, and that finishes out the Psalter. So maybe this could be considered the final section of the Psalms. But as I just mentioned, the psalm beginning today and going through Psalm 134. These are songs of ascents, and there has historically been different understandings of what these songs, what the basis of these songs are. These psalms are. One idea is that this is a spiritual ascent, that these are people going from lacking faith to having more faith. Some people think that these songs are called this because they are rising in musical pitch. It's purely about the actual music of the psalms as they were used in worship. But others, I think, have the best idea out of these, and that these are songs about physical ascent. That these would be songs that were sung by people who were ascending up to Jerusalem for celebration and feasts and other various things that go on in Jerusalem. Remember, Jerusalem was on a higher elevation than the rest of the land around it. So they literally, whenever they talk about going up to Jerusalem, it literally meant that they were going up to Jerusalem. So I think that's what's going on here, because we'll see throughout the majority of these songs there are allusions to Jerusalem. There's allusions to worship. There's allusions to a longing for God's city. And we're certainly going to see that today here in Psalm 120, a psalm of lament, where we read about, it seems to be, we read about an author who is far away from Jerusalem and longs to be in Jerusalem, and recognizes that even if he cannot be there, he can still call out to the God who rules from that city. So let me go ahead and get that text on the screen, and we'll read along together here in Psalm 120 this morning. Psalm 120. This psalm has been given the title in my Bible, A Cry for Peace, or excuse me, A Cry for Truth and Peace. Psalm 120, a song of ascents. In my distress, I called to Yahweh, and he answered me. Yahweh, rescue me from lying lips and a deceitful tongue. What will he give you? And what will he do to you, you deceitful tongue? A warrior's sharp arrows with burning charcoal. What misery that I have stayed in Meshech, that I have lived among the tents of Kedar. I have dwelt too long with those who hate peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Psalm 120. Psalm 120. Again, a lament here from the author, which is abundantly clear in the very first few words of the psalm, where he speaks about being in his distress. And we've seen this a number of times throughout the Psalter, where these authors with faith that is standing out in moments of trial, they recognize that in these moments of trial, there's only one place to turn, and that is to turn to God. So in his distress, I called out to Yahweh. And here is the blessing of being one who is faithful in Yahweh, the fact that Yahweh answered, which means number one, that Yahweh heard, and then number two, that he answered. And the cry out to Yahweh was for rescue. Rescue me from lying lips and a deceitful tongue. That's mentioned again in verses 3 and 4. What will he give you? I believe he's referring to the one of lying lips and a deceitful tongue. And what will he do to you, you deceitful tongue? The answer, a warrior sharp arrows with burning charcoal, or a warrior sharp arrows with coals of the broom bush. It seems possible that what's going on here, and especially once we get down further into the psalm, is that somebody is desiring peace. And maybe this person that the author, or these people that the author has been interacting with, have said, oh, yes, peace. We're good with peace. but then they've gone back on that and betrayed the author in some way. So what is the author recognizing that God is going to do? What is going to be the fate that Yahweh is going to render to these sinful people who are deceitful in their speech, who have lying lips? Well, a warrior's sharp arrows. You want war, you're going to get war from Yahweh. But then with burning charcoal, literally coals of the broom bush. This bush is made mention in 1 Kings 19. It's a bush large enough that Elijah was able to gain shade from it. And from what I read, this bush, the roots of it could be used for burning like charcoal. So that's the allusion here. So the shooting of arrows, and then you're going to burn, you're going to be defeated. The author makes it abundantly clear in verse number 5 and verse number 6 that he hates being where he is. It seems that he is far away from Jerusalem. He acknowledges here having stayed in Meshech, and he talks about having lived among the tents of Kedar. Both of these are descendants not of the people of Israel. Those in Meshech are descendants of Japheth, and those in Kedar are descendants of Ishmael. They're both nomadic tribes. They're both believed to have been in the eastern portion of the Arabian desert, which again, far away from Jerusalem, far away from God's place, from God's land, and from God's city. I've dwelt too long there. The author recognizes I've been away from God's people for too long, and I don't want to be around those who hate peace anymore. I am for peace. I want to be at peace with others, but when I speak, they are for war. The author desires peace, but the enemies within this text just want to wage war, just want to be in constant conflict. That's why he calls out to God for relief. That's why he calls out to God for relief. Again, many of the ideas in these Psalms focus on the desire to be in Jerusalem, the desire in going up to Jerusalem, the desire in being among God's people and being able to worship in Jerusalem. The author, obviously, in this particular psalm, is not able to be there, but he longs for that place, and he hates being among these people who hate peace and who just want to be at war and who want to be at conflict. I want to share with you the explanation of this psalm from Tremper Longman III, from his commentary, his little commentary on the Psalter. I really appreciate what he says here. I think he says it really well, and I want to share it with you. He says the modern reader may use this psalm as a model prayer when facing hostility and deceit, and feeling as if they are in a strange and perhaps distant place. The psalmist implicitly longs to be at home, not far away. For him, home denotes safety. And of course, for the ancient psalmist, home would be near the place where God makes his presence most palpably real, on Mount Zion in Jerusalem. His prayer, though, indicates his belief that God can answer him and make his presence known even in Meshech or Kedar. The New Testament proclaims that Christ is the very presence of God, and he sends the Spirit to dwell in us so we can be in God's presence, even, and he may have mentioned this previously within his writing, even in Timbuktu. And that's what he says the author feels like. The author feels like he is in Timbuktu, so far away. He's miserable. I might as well be dead because these people are miserable and my life is miserable and I can't be with God. But what we recognize here is what the author recognizes, that yes, he is far away from home. And yes, he desires to be at home. But even being away from this place, he knows that his God is big enough and powerful enough to still hear his prayer and to still answer him in his cries for help. And the mentioning there of Christ's Spirit, or Christ's Spirit and the Spirit of God with us, again, it being a part of God's people, we know that God dwells with us through his Spirit, and that we do not have to be in a particular place. We can be anywhere, wherever God's people are. God's Spirit is with them, and his presence is with them as they seek to serve him. And even as we might see within this psalm, facing hostility, facing those who are full of deceit, even in that situation, we can still find peace because of God's presence with us. So the psalmist here kicks us off in longing for Jerusalem by saying, I'm far away, but I long to be on my way home. If you have any questions or comments about Psalm 120, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking some time reading along with me today. We'll be back at it again on Wednesday, reading together from Psalm 121, where we will read about Yahweh, our protector, another song of ascents Looking forward to reading that with you then. Take care and God bless.